Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the live game review, Hull City 2, Everton 3 in the FA Cup third round. Everton progress into the fourth round of the FA Cup. We didn't make it easy for ourselves, did we? It took us 120 minutes against the side currently sitting 19th in the Championship to finally get the win. I suppose ultimately all that matters at the end of the day is that we got the win. Obviously we found out last night that we will be playing Brentford at Goodison Park in the fourth round of the FA Cup, so a much more difficult fixture. I think it's fair to say, listen, Hull put up a decent performance. George Honeyman was absolutely fantastic for them. They battled, they worked hard, they wanted it, and you know, after 120 minutes they come up short against the side that, let's be honest, should have been comfortably winning that game within the first 45 minutes, never mind past the 90-minute mark. And Everton will almost certainly have to improve and almost certainly have to put in a much better performance coming up against Premier League opposition who of course beat us not that long ago through a penalty, 1-0. It is at Goodison Park, which is big news, obviously positive news, a home tie, which is always fantastic at this stage in the competition, but without doubt we'll have to improve. Without doubt we'll have to put in a much better performance than what we did on Saturday if we've got any aspirations of going any further in this competition. But it is the game review. We're going to talk about Saturday's win, only Rafa Benitez's second win since September as Everton manager. And I want to address something before we do go into talking about the win and before we go into talking about the game on Saturday. Obviously, you know, we've been in pretty bad form recently, and I was listening to Jim White, Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy, who I'm not a massive fan of and typically talk nonsense, but he actually was rather okay today this morning on TalkSport, and Rafa Benitez was brought up, as he is in nearly every show, because we know obviously Jim White has got a nice little friendship with Mr. Mashiri, and Everton were brought up, and the question overall was, you know, will FA Cup success turn Everton fans, you know, minds on the manager, and will Everton fans get behind Rafa Benitez if he does win the FA Cup? And I think Danny Murphy and Simon Jordan were making the point of that's not going to happen, and Simon Jordan I think said something along the lines of, doesn't really matter if Everton were to win the FA Cup, if they're going to be in a relegation battle come the end of the season, then Rafa Benitez is still going to come under a lot of stick, which is right. But Jim White, now whether or not Jim White has had another conversation with Farhad Mashiri prior to the show this morning, or whether Jim White has had another conversation with Farhad Mashiri during the show this morning, I don't know. But Jim White was coming up with some really, really nonsense points. You know, things like Evertonians, you know, only not being happy with Rafa Benitez because of his Liverpool connection. Things like, you know, Evertonians not giving him a fair enough chance. The typical nonsense of he knows the city, you know, and typically using the whole Rafa Benitez used to manage Liverpool as a reason for Evertonians being unhappy and why that isn't acceptable. And he said it a couple of times. I think he said something along the lines of, if you don't like it, don't go the game because it's not fair. Now that's the biggest load of nonsense I've ever heard in my entire life, and I wanted to get this over before we do go into the review because I've had it on my mind all day and I've wanted to sit down and have a little conversation about it. I was going to do a separate video earlier on, but I thought, no, do you know what, we'll just talk about it in the review, because for Jim White to come out firstly and say, if you don't like what you're seeing, don't go the game, firstly, that's nonsense. This is my football club. This is the football club I've supported since the moment I was born. This is the football club that I've been a season ticket holder of for a decade. This is the football club that I pour, you know, hundreds of pounds into every single year. The football club that I wake up for and think about the moment I wake up and think about the last moment before I go to sleep. Don't you dare turn round to me and say, if you're not happy, don't bother going the game. That's utter nonsense, because you've got your mate in your ear who's trying to push your agenda about how brilliant this fella is in charge. And secondly, you're completely missing the point here. You're completely missing the point. I couldn't care less what connections Rafa Benitez has with Liverpool Football Club. His connection with Liverpool Football Club is irrelevant to me. Absolutely irrelevant. And I think to 99% of Evertonians, Rafa Benitez's connection with Liverpool Football Club is irrelevant. Is it a point to bring up when we're talking negatively about the manager and his tactics? Obviously it is. Is it a rod to beat him with, or whatever that saying is? Obviously it is. The board knew this before appointing Rafa Benitez. And more importantly, Rafa Benitez knew this before taking the Everton job. He knew that the moment it went wrong, that the moment we lost a couple of games, that the moment a certain decision didn't go his way, or he made a certain comment, or a certain situation with a player happened, i.e. the Luca Dean situation, he knew prior to putting pen to paper and signing with Everton Football Club that the connection with Liverpool Football Club would be brought up. Of course it's going to be. You would be absolutely stupid to think that it wasn't going to be. But me, as I've just said, like most other Evertonians, couldn't give a fuck about Rafa Benitez's Liverpool career or Liverpool's success or relationship with Liverpool, because if Everton was sitting 6th in the Premier League fighting for Europe and the players were putting in great performance after great performance, and tactically we looked like we knew what we were doing, and we looked like there was a plan, and we looked like there was a way forward, and we looked like, oh, do you know what, we're actually going in the right direction here, and the manager was making good decisions, and we were saying the right things, and we were doing the right things on the pitch, and we hadn't gone 3 months of Premier League football without winning a game, we wouldn't be talking about the Liverpool connection. We'd be sitting here saying, well, look at him, he's doing a great job at Everton Football Club. The players are working hard, we're winning games, we're scoring goals, we're doing well. Forget who he's managed previously. And that is still the same point now. Forget who he's managed previously. For Jim White to come out and say, oh, Evertonians are only unhappy because he's managed Liverpool, and if you don't like it, don't go the game. And there's I can't remember what he said. He said something. I'm going to get the direct quote up. Somebody tweeted it out before on social media, just a summary basically of what he'd said. Little army of doubters against them, he said. Little army of doubt against them. Again, he used the whole, he knows the City argument. Again, he used the whole, Evertonians haven't given him a fair chance because he managed Liverpool. Nonsense. Utter fucking nonsense. Is there Evertonians out there that didn't give Rafa Benitez a fair chance because he managed Liverpool? Maybe there is, but majority of us, including myself, don't give a fuck about who he's managed before. Who he's managed before is irrelevant. What we care about is the fact that Everton are sitting 16th in the Premier League, and on Saturday have only just won our second game since September 2021. 3 months ago, we've won 2 games in 3 months, and one of them was Saturday, and it took us 120 minutes to beat a Hull side that are riddled with injuries and are not very good in the first place. No disrespect to Hull, they worked very hard on Saturday. Nothing to do with the fact that he managed Liverpool. That's meaningless. That is absolutely meaningless. The reasons we're not happy as a fan base, the reasons a lot of Evertonians may want the manager out, the reasons why a lot of Evertonians have expressed their discontent and their unhappiness over the last however many weeks and months is because the fact the manager tactically is showing ineptencies, whatever, week in, week out. The substitutions he's making are poor. The decisions he's making on the pitch are poor. Some of the things he's saying in press conferences are winding people up. Situations with players, obviously we know the Luca Dean situation, and I'm not too big on the Luca Dean situation. At the end of the day, listen, footballers leave football clubs, players move on. Luca Dean looks to be leaving Everton Football Club, and it looks like Everton will get somewhere within the region of £25 million for him. He's signing for Aston Villa on a 4.5-year deal, I think. The rumour is his wage will be £8 million a year. That's a £60 million deal Aston Villa are putting in for Luca Dean. Now, Luca Dean is a very, very good player, but if Everton was signing a 28-year-old left-back for 4.5 years in a deal worth £60 million, we'd all have something to say about it. The fact of the matter is, the reason there's a lot of pressure on the manager, and the reason as to why the manager's getting a lot of stick isn't anything to do with the fact that he managed Liverpool. Carlo Ancelotti would be receiving stick if Everton had only won 1 game in 3 months in the Premier League, and given the fact that we've played Watford and we're absolutely embarrassed, Brentford and we're beaten there, Palace away who haven't beaten us for 312 years, beat us, Brighton at home who haven't won a Goodison for however long, beat us. It's nothing to do with this Liverpool connection. That is meaningless. The reason Evertonians are unhappy is because of the form and the football that we're seeing on the pitch. The fact that the players are running around as if they haven't got a clue what's going on or what their instructions are. And the fact that we're 15th, 16th in the Premier League and we've won 1 game since September. 2 games now, taking on Saturday. So I just wanted to speak, Jim White will never hear this, he'll never see this, of course he won't, but I've had that brewing on my mind over the last couple of hours or so, and I wanted to get it out. It's utter nonsense for him to go on TalkSport and just ignore the fact that, we're doing so poorly in the league, and the fact that, the tactical decisions have been dreadful, and the football we're watching is awful, and just say, you're only not happy because he managed Liverpool. Do me a favour, mate, and do one. Do me a favour and do one. Any other Premier League manager won 1 game in 12, they'd be sacked. End of the day, they'd be sacked. And Rafa Benitez maybe is doing a lot of work behind the scenes that is going, in his favour, and he maybe is saying a lot of things that, as I said on Friday, typically, if Everton were in a better situation, if we were winning games, if we were getting results, if we were performing a lot better, a lot of the things that Rafa Benitez is saying and doing, you'd probably go, do you know what? I can understand why we're doing that. I'll trust the process. But the fact that we're so poor at the moment, our performances have been so bad, we're not getting results. Fans aren't going to trust the decisions that are being made. In a different universe, Everton are fighting for the top 6, performing really well, winning games of football, scoring goals, and the Luka Dean situation is happening. But we're saying as fans, well, do you know what? I trust the manager with this one because we're doing so well. Luka Dean doesn't want to be. He's going to leave anyway. Maybe it's not the worst thing, but because of how we're performing on the pitch, it's the end of the world. So, as I said, I just wanted to mention that because it really bugged me this morning. It really bugged me, and I don't know whether it's come from Farhad Moshiri. I've seen a couple of people on Twitter saying, obviously, Farhad Moshiri's been on the phone. We don't know that. We can't categorically say that Farhad Moshiri has phoned Jim White this morning and said, do us a favour, Jim, and say that the only reason Evertonians don't like Rafa Benitez is because he's managed Liverpool, because we don't know that for sure. We can't sit here ultimately at the end of the day and say that's the reason as to why, Jim White said what he said. But what I can do is hold Jim White accountable for the words that come out of his mouth. And the words that come out of his mouth were utter nonsense. I don't care who Rafa Benitez has managed. I don't care if he's managed Liverpool. I don't care if he come out and said, well, I would care if he come out and said he loves Liverpool, because that'd just be nonsense. But I don't care who he managed 15 years ago. And the reason I didn't want him as Everton manager in the first place wasn't because of his Liverpool connection. The reason I didn't want him as Everton manager in the first place because of what we're seeing now. I didn't believe he was good enough to do the job we needed him to do. I didn't believe tactically he was good enough to do the job we needed him to do, and that's what we're seeing now. So that's why the majority of Evertonians are unhappy. Nothing to do with his meaningless Liverpool connection. It's to do with the fact that the performances we're seeing on the pitch aren't very good, and the tactics that we're seeing aren't very good. That's the reason. And some people will disagree, and some people will say, actually, there's a plan there, and we can see what's going on, and we can see what's happening, and that's fine, that's fair enough. But what I'm saying is those Evertonians that aren't happy with what's going on, it's not fair to say that's only because he managed Liverpool. Nonsense. If it was Marco Silva, Ronald Koeman, Sam Allardyce, Carlo Ancelotti, Roberto Martinez, whoever, and we were in this situation, we wouldn't be happy, and none of those previous managers have managed Liverpool before. So I'm sick of the media coming out and defending it. I'm sick of people in the media coming out and saying, yeah, but Evertonians were never going to be happy because he's managed Liverpool, as if we're fucking challenging for the top 6 and we're just not happy for being not happy sake. We're fucking 15th in the Premier League in January. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. Anyway, I've had my little rant. I've had my little discussion on what was said this morning on TalkSport. Let's get into the game review. Sorry about that if you didn't want to hear it, but it had to be said. Let's get into the game review. So Everton faced Hull City on Saturday afternoon. We will get in the live comments very shortly. By the way, if you're watching live, please do get your thoughts in the live comments. If you're enjoying the live stream, please hit that like button. It does only take a second. Share the stream if you're enjoying as well. And yet we were going into this game knowing that it was an absolute must-win. Absolute must-win. There was no other outcome. There was no other result that would have been acceptable for Rafa Benitez and his Everton side coming up against the side that were 19th in the Championship. Yes, they had a little bit of a buzz in and around the stadium. I think you could feel it. Certainly watching from home, I'm sure those Blues that travelled down to Hull could feel it as well. The new owner was in the stadium, or certainly the proposed new owner. I know it hasn't gone through yet, but it certainly is due to go through. And there was a buzz around the place. It was almost like the Hull fans were seizing an opportunity to, I would say, cause an upset, but I think more of an upset is the fact that Everton went away from home and won a game of footy, even though it took us 120 minutes. But you know what I mean? They were seizing an opportunity to, progress in the cup, new ownership coming on board, a couple of really exciting players. I think, as I said, Honeyman looked, spot on the other day, and coming up against an Everton team who were in dreadful form, pressured on the manager. Couple of players out injured, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison obviously still out injured, and obviously playing a fairly strong squad, but a squad that Hull would have fancied themselves to have at least battle, and that's exactly what they did. That's exactly what we did. Rafa Benitez persisted with the 5 at the back formation, which was, or 3 at the back formation, whatever you want to call it. I done the instant match reaction the other day and somebody was having a go at me. It's not 5 at the back, it's 3 at the back. Doesn't matter. What it isn't, I'll tell you what it isn't. It isn't a 3 in midfield, and there lies your big problem. Don't care if it's 5 at the back, 3 at the back, or 412 at the back. It isn't 3 in midfield, and there's the problem. He persisted with the 5, 3 at the back, whatever you want to call it. Asmir Begovic come in for only his 4th appearance, I believe, in an Everton shirt. Jordan Pickford dropping to the bench. Little bit of a controversial decision, not too much, because this is something typically you see many managers do over the years, is use the substitute goalkeeper in cup games just to give them a little bit of game time, to make them feel part of the squad, and I suppose as well to give the first team goalkeeper a rest. I'm not a massive fan of doing it, because I don't particularly think first team goalkeepers need a rest. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe Jordan Pickford would tell me otherwise, and it turns out that it actually worked out for us. I thought Asmir Begovic had a relatively decent game and made an unbelievable save in the last couple of minutes to deny us going to penalties, which was worth every single penny in itself, to not have to go and watch a penalty shootout. But again, as I said, I was a little bit, when I seen it, I thought, well, why isn't Jordan Pickford starting? Why aren't we starting with our, starting 11? But I suppose the argument the manager might have, and the argument a lot of managers would have, is, well, a backup goalkeeper works hard in training every day, deserves his opportunity. And in hindsight, Asmir Begovic played well and made an unbelievable save. Made a couple of really big saves, actually, so I've not got too much against that. The manager did start with new signing Vitaly Mykolenko at left wing back. We had a centre-back 3 of Ben Godfrey, Michael Keane and Seamus Coleman. Yes, you heard that right, in case you haven't watched the game. Michael Keane, Ben Godfrey and Seamus Coleman. John Joe Kenny played right wing back. We had Alan and Andre Gomez in the centre of midfield. And then we had Anthony Gordon, Damari Gray, up front, Solomon Rondon, and I'm missing somebody. No, I'm not missing somebody. Solomon Rondon, Anthony Gordon, and Damari Gray up front. Just got a notification from Everton. It's absolutely nothing to do with Luca Dean, so we won't go into it. No Luca Dean still. As expected, rumour at the moment is that he looks set to join Aston Villa. Not a done deal yet, and not as far down the line as maybe some reports were suggesting earlier on today, but it looks like Aston Villa have won the race for Luca Dean. I believe personal team terms shouldn't be too much of an issue. Some reports even stating that they've been agreed already. Fee of around £20 to £25 million for the 28-year-old left-back, which some people will say is a good deal. Some people will say selling one of our best players to a direct rival is not a good idea, which I agree with both sides of that argument, to be fair. Not to sit on the fence, but I agree with both sides of that argument. Obviously, Nathan Patterson made the bench. Was looking forward to seeing Nathan Patterson come on, actually, so I was disappointed he didn't get a chance, but given the way in which the game went and the way in which the game panned out, I'm really not surprised we didn't get to see him, to be perfectly honest with you. As I said, Abdoulaye Doucouré on the bench. Andros Townsend making the bench for the first time in a few weeks, obviously after recovering from, or certainly being in the latter stages of his recovery from a broken foot. Great to see Andros Townsend on the bench, especially considering that a lot of that seems to be down to Andros Townsend. There was a report published on Friday night saying that Andros Townsend had pushed to be a part of the matchday squad, and just as well, isn't it, really? Scored an absolute beaut to win the game. Yes, the keeper should have been doing better, but I'm not really arsed, to be honest, because it was an absolute worldy strike. And yeah, as I said, a front 3 of Damari Gray, Anthony Gordon and Solomon Rondon. No point in moaning about it. We all knew Solomon Rondon was going to start. Anthony Gordon and Damari Gray were ultimately there to provide that little bit of quality to win us the game. And I actually found it really, really entertaining in the opening couple of minutes, because Rafa Benitez was talking to one of the BBC reporters prior to the game. The way they have the managerial interviews just before the game, what you're looking to achieve, how important this tie is, all of that sort of nonsense, media duties. And one of the questions put to Rafa Benitez before the game was quite aptly, really, Everton have conceded a lot of goals first in games of football. Everton have had to come from behind on a lot of occasions this season. How do you avoid doing that? Because ultimately, yes, okay, we've done well a couple of times of coming from behind, but that's not what you want. You don't want to go 1-0 down and have that pressure on you to get back into a game. You want to go 1-0 up and then control the game from there. And Rafa Benitez's simple one-sentence answer was, don't do it. I've told them to not do it. 43 seconds into the game, Hull get a free kick. One ball comes into the box, one cross, one set piece, one aerial ball. one header, one goal, we're 1-0 down already. It's sort of just, I was shaking my head in disbelief. I was sitting there on the couch watching it, just shaking my head, thinking we couldn't become any more of a fucking meme, I think is the term probably best used, if we tried. You know, we're literally a comedy sketch of a football club, aren't we? We are. I watch Only Fools and Horses sometimes, and I reckon if they just filmed a week of Everton, it would be like a classic Only Fools and Horses episode, because that's just what we are. We're literally like that type of comedy, that type of, yeah, well, we've worked on not doing it. Literally 30 seconds into a game, we concede the goal. Again, another set piece coming into the box. Again, nobody marking. Nobody marking the attacker. Michael Keane just defending thin air. Once again, Mykolenko does get underneath it. I'll cut him a little bit of slack, considering it was his debut and it was always going to be a little bit difficult for him, but he gets underneath the ball. Ben Godfrey doesn't really help him out. Seamus Coleman isn't a centre-back, so it doesn't help him out. And ultimately, we're having to deal with coming from behind once again. Against a Hull side that we're always going to take a lot of confidence from that. The belief then, you could see the belief start to grow within this whole team. They started to ultimately think that, hang on, do you know what? We can win this game. Not only are we coming up against a team that are out of form, but we're already 1-0 up within the first minute. And for 10 or 15 minutes after that, Everton were atrocious, absolutely atrocious. Again, defensively, I'm sick and tired of coming on and sitting and moaning about how bad we are defensively. I really, really am. We are in desperate need of a centre-back this January transfer window. Desperate need. I can't confess how important it is for Everton to go out and buy a leader at the back. I've seen a couple of names being thrown about over on social media and stuff. Nothing solid. I don't think we're I don't think we're down the line with any deal for the centre-back. But hopefully, if there's one thing that the Luca Dean money does bring, or one positive that I think maybe we could all agree on with the Luca Dean deal, is that it will free up a little bit more space, a little bit more wriggle room with financial fair play. And hopefully that means we can go out and look at some of the more important areas on the pitch. Loads of, people will have differences, opinions on the Luca Dean situation, but the reality is we've already replaced him. So him going and leaving the club for 25 million and us being able to reinvest that money on more important positions, i.e. a centre-back, is only a positive for me, because we are in absolute desperate need of a centre-back. I know some people will say, but what about Yerry Mina, Cam? The problem is with Yerry Mina is when he starts and when he plays, he's absolutely unbelievable. But in the last 5 months, we've seen him for 13 minutes. 13 minutes. He played 3 games for Colombia in one of the early international breaks, was out for 2 or 3 months, come back, lasted literally 13 minutes, and then had to go off again, and we haven't seen him since. And the manager isn't even talking about his recovery or how far along the line he is or when he's likely to come back. So you can't rely on Yerry Mina, as good as he is. You can't rely on Yerry Mina whatsoever. And plus his contract's up within the next 16, 17 months or so the club mightn't even give him a new contract. So for me, this January, I'd be looking at going out and buying another centre-back. I know we probably need another centre midfielder, somebody within that Abdoulaye Doucouré mould again. I completely agree with that. But watching us week in, week out over the last couple of weeks or so, over the last couple of months or so, we're atrocious at defending. Absolutely. Without Yerry Mina in there, and as I said, he's too unreliable, we are absolutely atrocious at defending. And we can't be that bad. I said it in the instant match reaction. You might disagree with me. You mightn't disagree with me. I honestly don't think, and I'm being deadly serious here, I'm not saying this for comedic effect. I'm not saying this to be an idiot. I'm not saying this for a laugh. I genuinely think that there isn't one team in the English football pyramid, i.e. League 2, League 1, Championship, Premier League, probably even Conference North and Conference South. I don't think that there's one team in all of those leagues that couldn't score a goal against Everton at the moment. I don't. I think if you give any one of those teams a set piece and they've got a semi-regularly okay set piece taker, which, let's be honest, most Sunday League teams have, so most professional teams will have as well, I think they'll score goals against Everton. That's how bad we are at defending set pieces. And this is what really frustrates me from last season. Listen, don't get me wrong, last season wasn't great, and Jeff pointed out in the comments about finishing 10th and how that wasn't, positive. He says, does everybody remember last season? I hate to point this out, but we were shite and lost home games regularly and finished 11th. You're spot on, and last season was a shambles, an absolute shambles it was. But one thing that Carlo Ancelotti sorted, and we had seemingly sorted was defending balls into the box, defending set pieces, and yes, Yerry Mina was available for a lot more of last season than what he is at the moment, but we seemingly were able to defend. We seemingly were able to get balls away. Aerial balls come into the box. We were able to deal with them. We can't do that anymore. We simply can't do that. And I don't want to put it down solely to Rafa Benitez, because at the end of the day, you've got a 27, 28-year-old Michael Keane in there who should be more than capable of defending a ball into the box. Ben Godfrey, who, okay, is young and still learning, but again, should be doing much better at defending balls into the box. And this team, without Yerry Mina, is just void of any sort of leadership. It's void of any sort of confident centre-back. Somebody that's going to go, okay, I might be zonally marking here, but there's a fucking 6'7" forward there who nobody's marking, so I'm going to go and deal with him, and I'm going to go and sort this out, like Yerry Mina does. At the end of the day, I don't care whether we're zonal marking, I don't care whether we're man-to-man marking. What I care is when Dan Burns standing on the back post and nobody's with him, somebody going, do you know what? Fuck whatever system we're using, I'm going to mark that fella, because if it goes to him, it's going in the back of the net. And we just don't seem to do that. We just don't seem to do that at the moment, and that's a big problem, and a problem that we really need to address this January transfer window. We need to go out, we need to buy a centre-back, but we also need to buy a centre-back that's going to come in and be a leader. No point buying one that's going to come in and 1 week will be shite and 1 week will be good. We need to go out and buy one that is going to step in there, can play week in, week out consistently. We know that they're reliable, no injury problems, can get out there and give 100% every week, and is also a leader, and we don't even need a world-class centre-half, just a good defender. How many good defenders are they floating about the Premier League? I'm not talking about Kimpembe, prime Sergio Ramos levels of centre-half. I'm just talking about a decent, big, aerial defender who isn't afraid to, get himself involved, who isn't afraid to get up and challenge players. Look at the other fella for them, for example, Virgil van Dijk. Great defender, known as one of the best in world football. Is he technically unbelievable? No. He just isn't afraid to get up, isn't afraid to challenge, will jump, will battle, will throw himself about in the air, and it's just a good defender. Don't get me wrong, he's a great defender for what he is, but technically there's nothing special there. That's what we need. We need a defender who can just deal with situations, is just confident enough to deal with situations, because we've only got one at the moment, and he's never on the pitch. And that isn't good enough. That isn't good enough ultimately. So listen, as I said, we go 1-0 down really, really early on, first minute in fact, and it was always then going to be an uphill battle for Everton. We never make it easy for ourselves, do we? We never just go out there and say, do you know what, we'll win this game comfortably. No disrespect to Hull, but this Everton team should have had more than enough to go out and do that. And then, as I said, for 10 or 15 minutes, bear with me a second, pardon me, for 10 or 15 minutes, we were awful. Absolutely awful. Couldn't control the ball in the midfield. Alan and Andre Gomez were getting absolutely nowhere near the ball. We defensively, we were getting put under pressure. Hull had another chance literally a couple of minutes later. Ball comes into the box. I think it was Eves, stood free. Again, why we leave 17-foot centre forward stood on their own in the middle of the box is beyond me. He gets the header off. Asmir Begovic makes a really, really good save first. Really, really good save he made in the game. Everton get away with one. And then, as I said, it was just so lackadaisical. We couldn't get the ball forward. Rondon may as well have been sat next to me having spam and chips like I was having and watching the game on the telly. Gray and Gordon couldn't quite get into the flow of things. The midfield were losing the midfield battle, and it looked for 10 or 15 minutes like it was going to be another one of those days. It looked for 10 or 15 minutes like Rafa Benitez needed to make a change, needed to, hang on, remember when you could go to three in midfield and actually play midfield that were capable of controlling games of football and actually put another man in there to help out the likes of Alan, who isn't particularly quick, and Andre Gomez, who isn't particularly quick. You mustn't be able to do that with Everton. But no, listen, in all seriousness, after that 10 or 15 minute spell, we did start to grow into the game a little bit. I think Hull started to tire. I think their press and their high intensity started to maybe catch up with them a little bit, and our Premier League quality started to shine a little bit, which should be a sentence we can say without sort of sitting here and going overboard. We should be able to say, oh yeah, the Premier League quality that Everton have just ultimately was too much for Hull in towards the end of that first half and in that second half. But even just saying them words feels like a positive for me, because not often have we been able to sit here in Premier League games and say Everton's Premier League quality shone through today. We haven't often been able to say it. So, obviously, as I said, we started to pick the ball up a little bit, started to control the game a little bit more. Hull tired a little bit, midfield-wise. Andre Gomez was picking it up and moving forward with it, as you would expect. Alan was winning it. Defensively, we weren't put under as much pressure. Mikalenko was getting forward and trying to put balls into the box, as was John Joe Kenny. And we find the equaliser. Really, really nice ball over to Demarai Gray. Demarai Gray takes an absolutely world-class. Absolutely world class. I can't express to you how good of a touch this is. Flicks it behind him, gets it into a really good area, and you're thinking, go on, put the ball in the box. You're looking for Rondon. Where are you? Be a target man. Make that little bit of room for yourself. Find yourself a little bit of an area. Get in there and cause a problem to the defence. This isn't a, we're not talking about a Premier League defence here that you'd go, okay, maybe that those centre-backs are just too good for Rondon to console. You're talking about a team that are 19th in the Championship. Solomon Rondon should have had a field day, an absolute field day physically, being able to deal with this whole defence. He couldn't, and I'm sick of having a go at Solomon Rondon. I'm sick of sitting here and, moaning about him because he's not putting himself on the pitch. We know he's not good enough. We know he's not fit enough. We know he hasn't got enough quality, but he doesn't start himself. He doesn't put himself on the pitch. But anyway, Demarai Gray's got it on the on the left hand side. Really, really nice touch behind him with like a back heel touch. He finds Anthony Gordon, plays him in. Anthony Gordon, lovely little touch, straight back out of his feet. Demarai Gray one-on-one with the keeper, miles onside, and he puts the ball into the back of the net, and all of a sudden Everton are level. Really, really nice, well worked goal. To be fair, I've sat here and criticised Everton a number of times over the last few weeks or so about our inability to create chances, about our inability to score goals, and that was a really, really, really nice work goal. As frustrated as I was at the fact that we were 1-0 down and it just put in a dreadful performance for 10 or 15 minutes, to be fair, getting back into the game with that goal was sweet, because it was a good goal. It was well worked. It showed the connection between Demarai Gray and Anthony Gordon. It showed the teamwork there. It showed the ability of Anthony Gordon and how much he's progressed. Not picking the ball up and first instinct thinking, right, I need to get a shot off here, looking at his man, playing that neat ball, having that footballer IQ, which is something that, without being disrespectful, there's a lot of Everton players that lack that football IQ. So to see young Anthony Gordon coming through, and to be fair, Anthony Gordon a couple of years ago when he was just breaking through, when he was a young lad, lacked that football and IQ. And that was because he was still only young, and he was still only trying to break through and trying to make his name. And you can see how much he's matured, and you can see how much he's learned over the last couple of years, as to have that know-how to pick that ball up, one touch, and straight out your feet back to Demarai Gray. It was a really, really nice, well-worked goal. And all of a sudden, Everton are back in the game, 1-1, and you're thinking, right, go out now and go and kill the game off. Hull were bound to fret a little bit after that. They were bound to sort of, again, worry a little bit and panic a little bit at what Everton could bring. We get the second one not that long after. Really, really nice, well worked. Again, Anthony Gordon picks it up, plays a lovely ball out to to John Joe Kenny. Really, really nice, well-timed pass. And John Joe Kenny, to be fair to him, again, I've criticised him. I've sat here and said he's not good enough to play for Everton, or he's not good enough to be in the Premier League. He's got 2 assists in his last 2 games now, and this one was another really, really good assist, because what he did, John Joe Kenny, is he didn't particularly look for a man. He done what some of the best teams in Europe do, and some of the best teams in England, Man City do it, and them lot do it across the park. Their fullbacks are told, rather than getting the ball in a good area and looking for a player, or looking for a centre forward, or looking for a man in the box who mightn't be there, get the ball in a good area, and when you're crossing it, hit an area, hit a position, hit a sort of, if you'd like an imaginary square in the box, to the point where it's not, I'm going to hit Solomon Rondon, or I'm going to hit Demarai Gray. It's, I'm going to put the ball in that area, and those players know I'm going to put the ball in that area, so those players are going to come onto it. And that's what John Joe Kenny done. There wasn't really, at the time when he picked the ball up, there wasn't really any Everton players in a dangerous position. Again, Andre Gomez ran from pretty much the the edge of the box. Solomon Rondon wasn't really offering, but John Joe Kenny decided, you know what, I'm just going to put it in that area and I'm going to invite someone to attack it, and that's what we need. We need more of that. We need more of crosses in the box that are, I'm going to put it there and I'm going to invite you to attack it. If you don't attack it, then it's not my fault, because I've put it in the right area and you've not attacked it. And that's what John Joe Kenny did. He dinked it into that area. Andre Gomez saw the danger, saw the opportunity, come running onto it, really, really good header, and it was past the goalkeeper, and all of a sudden, within 10 minutes, 10 minutes, we're 2-1 up. Two really, really nice, well-worked goals. And, you know, we're 2-1 up. And you're thinking, okay, you know, we've actually started to play a little bit of football here. We've actually started to work hard. We've started to control the game. We've actually started to look like the Premier League team. For once, we've started to turn up and actually think, you know what? We are the Premier League side. We are going to show our dominance. We are going to control this game. And at that point, that was the key point for me. Sorry, somebody in the comments has just mentioned that Fabrizio Romano said something about Everton. Don't think he said anything about Everton other than the latest on the Luka Dean stuff, which we talked about before. But that was the key point for me. When we went 2-1 up, you know, going into half-time, controlling the game. As I said, the first 10 or 15 minutes we were abysmal, but we grew into it. We looked a lot better. That was the point for me where you're sitting there thinking, go and get the third. Go and kill that game, because that game was never, obviously it was never killed off at 2-1. Hull always had an opportunity, and to be honest with you, I was a little bit, I'm not going to say disappointed with Hull, because I was absolutely fucking made up that they didn't cause us many a problem in that second half, but I was a little bit surprised that Hull didn't cause us too many more problems in the first half. If I was the Hull manager at half time, certainly, if not, you know, as soon as Everton went 2-1 up, I'd be saying, you literally had one chance in the first minute. You put an aerial ball in the box, we score from it. You then had another one 5 minutes later and it forced the keeper into making a big save. Continue to do that. Hull didn't really threaten us massively from that point on. Hull didn't really sort of throw balls into the box. They didn't test, you know, Michael Keane an awful lot, or Ben Godfrey, or Seamus Coleman at right centre-back. It was almost like they were trying to play the ball through the middle. You know, George Honeyman, who had a fantastic game, again, he didn't really get that service. It was almost like they were trying to play it round us, which, again, usually works against Everton, so I can see why they tried to do it. But I remember sitting down and saying to my dad at half-time, they haven't really threatened us an awful lot. Yes, we've looked a lot better in the last 10 or 15 minutes. We've got back ahead. We started to control the game a little bit more. Alan looked really, really good at that point. Andre Gomez was moving it forward. Damari Gray, exceptional, had another 2 or 3 chances to score. Just before half-time, Anthony Gordon had the chance. I think it was just before we scored the second, actually. Anthony Gordon had the chance to make it 2-1. Cuts in on his left foot, takes a shot, hits the post. Really clever shot. Unlucky to hit the post. But I remember thinking, Hull haven't really created an awful lot here. They haven't threatened us. They haven't. If I was the Hull manager at that point, I'd be pointing at Michael Keane, Seamus Coleman and Ben Godfrey and saying, every time you get beyond that halfway line, lump that ball up towards the eaves and put them under pressure, because they fall to bits. But they didn't do it. And as I said, we were going in at half time, and I was sort of thinking, this is far from over. Far from over. Of course it's far from over. It's 2-1. We're away from home. Anything could happen. They could get a lucky chance. They could get a lucky break. Or they could just think, actually, do you know what? Maybe we should just throw a ball in the box here, because these aren't very good at defending them. And that was always going to be the case. So when we had that momentum, when we had that period of time in the game, as I said, you know, from probably the 20th, 25th minute onwards in the first half, and then, you know, the opening 15, 20 minutes of the second half, you were sort of thinking, that was the time, go and get the winner. And by the winner, I mean the third goal. The third goal would have been the winner then. If Everton had gone in at half-time 3-1 up, or come out in the second half and within the opening 5 or 10 minutes scored the third, Hull would have been a bit like, I think personally, Hull's, the heads would have dropped to the players. It would have been a bit like, this is sort of beyond, you know, this is a lot harder now. I think we'd have taken a bit more control of the game. They'd have been forced to come flying out, and that would have created opportunities for us. It would have killed the game off completely at 3-1, I think. But why would Everton ever do that when they can let Hull back into the game and give us all, you know, a terrible Saturday night? Why would they just go out and get the third? Why would they just go out and kill a game off when they can make it as entertaining as possible for everybody else except us Evertonians who were sitting on the couch or sitting in the ground thinking, why are we in extra time against Hull? No disrespect to Hull. Hull, I thought, played well, worked hard, battled, and maybe on another day with a full fit squad would have gotten more out of the game. But as I said, that was the chance, 2-1 up. Going into the second half, Hull weren't really offering much. We were having chances. Damari Gray had a couple where he was offside, and I love Damari Gray, and I think Damari Gray was absolutely excellent the other day. But he had a couple where he was offside in really, really silly areas where he should have stayed onside. Go out and get the third goal, kill the game off. But we didn't. We went in at half time, 2-1 up, and as I said, mixed emotions. First 15 minutes we were dreadful. Last sort of half an hour we were better. We got back in front. We started to control the game, but it was always about kill it off now. And we couldn't. Let's get into the live comments then. Before we go into talking about the second half, if you are enjoying the live stream, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second if you're new. Don't forget to subscribe. That would mean a great, great deal to me as well. If you are enjoying and you want to share the stream, please do so. Share it on social media. Let's try and get as many people in as we can. Eugene says, Everton unlikely to sign El Ghazi from Aston Villa as part of Dean deal. Yeah, I read that earlier. I think that's maybe more of El Ghazi's agent trying to get his name out there and get him a move away from Villa, essentially. Hacken says, hi Cam, hi mate. Reece says, never felt so disconnected to our club. A win still feels like a loss. Listen, I'm just happy that we won and we're in the next round. But it wasn't great. It wasn't a great watch. It wasn't a great performance. But yeah. Whammy says, what would Reedy do? Yeah, exactly. What would Reedy do? Eugene says, Everton striker, good deal as squad succession claim made over new transfer. I don't know who you're referring to there, Eugene. Spot on here. Cam says, Reece, cheers, my mate. Faz says, what we're seeing now is all that counts. This guy couldn't manage a good side. Ian says, rather be losing Dean than DCL or Richarlison. How else will we raise money? And he's been below for first season for 2 now. Well, that's an interesting one, isn't it? I'm gonna put this to the live comments because I put this to a group of friends not so long ago, and they had differences in opinions. Let's say Everton were faced with, and this is just being devil's advocate here, having a little discussion. Let's say Everton were faced with the proposition of having to sell either Luca Dean, and I get that the answers to this may be shrewd one side more than the other because of the situation that we're in and because of the fact that we are selling Luca Dean. But if Everton were faced with selling Luca Dean, Richarlison, Jordan Pickford or Dominic Calvert-Lewin, one of them 4 to build up some funds to improve the squad, who would be the one that you would prefer to sell? Now, a lot of people might say Dean because Dean's going now and that's the situation that we're in. But try and take yourself away from the situation that we're in currently, and let's say Dean was staying, who would be the one that you would rather sell out of those 4? And I get that that's not how football works, but just out of interest. Jeff says, all right, everyone, see our fans still running around with their hair on fire and having massive overreaction. Over what, mate? Over what? Meg says, Meg vs. Jake says, I'm not surprised. Everton fans are overreacting. We're shocking. Wimmy says, Jeff. Jem says, Blues, what's happening? Meg says, if we lose to Norwich, I can't read the rest of that out, mate. He says, TCL should be fit. Richarlison should be fit. I'm not too sure about Richarlison. DCL should be fit, though. Wimmy says, good thing Wacko Jacko's not about to see if he would have a traumatic flashbacks. I don't get that, but there you go. Jess says, Cam, the alternative right now is to sack Benitez, which will cost 7 million, then hire someone costing millions with no guarantee of success. True. And I think Rafa Benitez should have been sacked weeks ago, if I'm being honest with you, weeks ago. And I get that you'd say, oh, we'll have to pay him out, and that's even more money out, but that's the risk that the owner took when he employed a manager that tactically hasn't been very good for a long, long time. Reality is we're sitting 16th in the Premier League, and if we don't start picking up wins, i.e. Norwich on Saturday away from home, then we could be sitting in a relegation battle. And I've said it before, by the way, and I'll say it again, and you might disagree with me, you mightn't disagree with me, you might agree with me. This Everton side doesn't get out of a relegation battle. It doesn't. It hasn't got the heart. It hasn't got the bollocks. The players haven't got the desire, the commitment, the passion. They haven't got. All they'll have in the back of their minds is, well, if we go down, then we'll just get a move somewhere else. So it's easy. This group, I haven't got the confidence that this group of players has got what it takes to fight their way out of a relegation battle. I don't. I think they're more likely to just go, accept the fate and go, well, this is where we are. It is what it is. Move on. And that's because of countless performances that have suggested that over the years, not just this season. Jem says, anywhere you put it up with, it always ends up with 5 at the back for long ball and periods of the game. Eugene says, Everton should have had 2 penalties. Yeah, we're going to talk about Kevin Friend later on in the stream because he was an absolute disgrace. Harry says, should they? Yeah, we absolutely should. Jem says, well, we were 15th in the league and they preferred the formation, adds pressure to the dodgy defence. I don't like it one bit. Fair enough. Whammy says 5 at the back, Rafa Tate way. Meg vs. Jake says, can both times we use 5-2-3-1. We've conceded 3 goals in the first half, 2 against Brighton, 1 against Hull. One thing I'm over the moon with is about we scored 2 in the first half against Hull. Yeah, it's a rarity, to be fair. We should have had 2 penalty kicks. They're both 2 of the most blatant penalties you'll see all season, without a shadow of a doubt. Whammy says, how are you going to press high when all your players are on the 16-yard line? Yeah. Meg says, we should have beat Hull 4-2. The penalties were horrific. Well, 5-2, really, because we should have had 2. All right, Cam, how's it going, says Damien? I'm not too bad. Ian says, I have to mention how good Begovic's save was. That save at the end was stunning. Yeah, well, we're going to talk about that towards the end because it was a game-winning save, effectively. It was an absolutely unbelievable save. And, you know, to be fair to Asmir Begovic, he's pulled it out there. He absolutely has. If you're enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. It only takes a second. And Damien says, I'm getting sick of the officials and the shit decisions I've heard from an ex-ref that they're told who to favour, who will win the league. If they do, wouldn't they do the same for the other end? Well, listen, referees are awful, and you know what makes it even worse, and this is what frustrated me more. It wasn't that Kevin Friend was so bad, because Kevin Friend is a dreadful referee. He's absolutely awful. It was the fact that the BBC commentators, I can't remember what the other fella's name was, but Jermaine Genius was one of them. And to be fair to Jermaine Genius, a lot of people have criticised him for saying the ref had a good game. Jermaine Genius actually said that if you were an Everton fan, you wouldn't be thinking the refs had a good game. It was the other fella, is it his name Pierce, Jonathan Pierce maybe, co-commentator. He actually had the bollocks to come out and say, to be fair to Kevin Friend, I think he's had a good game today. What were you watching? He missed 2 of the most blatant penalties. And in the same sentence, he said, if VAR was here, then those 2 penalties would have definitely been given. I think the referees had a good game today. You're effectively just admitting that he's made 2 catastrophic mistakes that I could see from me couch. Never mind him standing 5 yards away from it. And in the same sentence, you're saying, oh, he's had a decent game. No, he hasn't. He was abysmal. He was absolutely awful. Say it how it is. Stop gassing these referees up and making them think that, oh, yeah, you know, you done well today. You didn't. You were shit. You were absolutely shite, and you should have been fined for missing those two opportunities, because it's nonsense. Playing at the highest, refereeing at the highest level, earning a lot of money, and you can't see those 2 chances. I'm not having it. I'm just absolutely not having it. Anyway, let's get back into the game then. Let's get back into discussing the second half. If you are enjoying this, by the way, please hit that like button. It does only take a second. We will be getting back in the live comments a little bit later on, so don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comment section if you are enjoying and you would like to get involved. But yeah, we go out in the second half, and as I said, for me, it's very much go and get the third, go and get the win. And it wasn't difficult. Hull at this point were tiring. I think they were struggling to keep in the game. I think they were struggling to deal with, you know, Everton's attack, especially Damari Gray, who was getting a lot of opportunities, getting a lot of space. Anthony Gordon, very, very similarly. And for me, the only message in that situation from the manager should have been, go out and go and get the third goal. Go and win the game, kill it off. You know, we'll have no problem at that point, and we'll be all happy days. We'll win the game, you know, hopefully within the 50th, 60th minute, no stress, and we'll be able to leave and go, do you know what? Okay, we went behind, but we can maybe take a little bit of confidence, maybe take a little bit of momentum from getting back in the game and, you know, killing it off quickly as possible. But we didn't, did we? Again, although we had a lot of the ball in the first 10 or 15 minutes of the second half, although we created a couple of chances, although we were getting forward, although we were maybe causing Hull City a few problems, we weren't really doing an awful lot. And Hull were always going to grow in confidence as the game went on, because they were always going to believe, right, we only need 1 chance here. 1 chance and we're straight back in it. No replay, so they don't have to come and play at Goodison Park. They don't have to risk another fixture. Just get back in the game, see extra time through, which I think was their plan to try and do. See extra time through without conceding, and then get to penalties, and anything can happen on a penalty shootout. So the more and more that the second half went on, 5 minutes in, 10 minutes in, 15 minutes in, and Everton hadn't got that third goal, and hadn't killed the game off, which we should have been much more ruthless in doing. If I was the manager, I would have actually I'd have put Abdoulaye Doucouré on at half time, made the 3 in midfield, and gone for the third then. Or I would have at least taken Solomon Rondon off after 10 minutes of watching him do absolutely nothing again, and give Lewis Dobbin half an hour, 40 minutes to go and impress and show what he can do against the poor Championship side. Let's have it right, albeit a Championship side that worked really hard and done well, but they're not very good, are they? But he didn't. He kept with the same team. He kept with the same 11, and we failed. We failed to get the third goal. And as I said, the more and more the game went on, and the more and more time went on that we hadn't conceded. That we hadn't scored. Weirdly, the less and less confident I was being. Now that's strange, because the more time that went on meant the closer we were to full time, and yet I was less and less confident because I knew full well that Hull would be thinking, actually, do you know what? We can get back in this here. They'd soaked up that period of pressure. And this is something that Everton have struggled with all season, I think, and struggled with typically over the years, is when we have that period of pressure, when we have teams on the ropes, when we really get at sides and, they're struggling and we're creating chances, we never make teams pay. We never go out and get 3, 4, 5, 6. We're never sitting there going, wow, we had a 10-minute spell there, but we made the most of it. We've done it once against Burnley. We done it against Burnley. The Southampton game, first game of the season, was a bit different. We didn't really have a period of football. We were just much better in the second half. We done it once against Burnley, where we had a period of 10 or 15 minutes, and we just made them pay. We scored 4 goals. One of them obviously was disallowed. We haven't done it since, and we don't do it. We have a period in every game, by the way, near enough every game anyway, where we're, for 10 or 15 minutes, we're so much the better team. We're controlling the ball, we're getting forward, we're creating chances. The opposition team aren't really in it, but so very rarely do we make the opposition team pay. More often than not, we just dilly-dally with the ball. We don't really do much. We might create the odd half chance, we don't score a goal, and then after that period is up, the opposition team goes back to controlling the game, and we end up conceding again. And it's so frustrating, because you can see it happening. It was the same with the Brighton game. We were 2-1 down, and Anthony Gordon had just scored his first, and you're thinking, right, we had a 10-minute spell. False Dawn didn't do anything with it, went 3-1 down after it. Go out and go and kill the game off. Go and make the most of these chances. Again, we didn't on Saturday. And again, I remember turning around and saying to me, Dad, these will have a spell here where they grow in confidence, where they think, actually, do you know what? We can get back in this game. We can battle with this Everton team. We can cause them problems. Literally, the moment those words left my mouth, the absolute minute, not even the minute, the second those words left my mouth, Hull work the ball around into a good area, get it to the edge of the box, kill it, and it's 2-2. And all of a sudden, again, with 15-20 minutes to go, Everton have again conceded another goal and are making this game so much more difficult than what it had to be. Hull at this point were working their bollocks off, don't get me wrong. They were working so hard, they were battling, they were fighting, but they never had an awful lot. They weren't, quality-wise, they weren't causing us many an issue. They were just showing that little bit of effort. They wanted it more than we did. We almost thought, 2-1 up here, sound, it's not going to concede again. We'll win this game comfortably. And that's not how it works. That's not how football works. I don't know how many times I have to say, that's not how football works. Go out, be ruthless, go and get the third, get the fourth, get the fifth. Make Hull sit there and think, fucking hell, I can't cope with these. These are great. Don't go out there and go, well, we're winning, so, we'll just take it as it is. Because opposition teams will grow in confidence because of that. Opposition teams will go, do you know what? We can get back in this here. We can cause them problems. And that's exactly what Hull did. Exactly what Hull did. They thought, you know what? We can get back in this. We can cause these problems. And we're not out of this tie yet. And what happens? A couple of minutes later, they go and get an equaliser. Then the manager decides to make some changes. Then the manager decides to bring Abdoulaye Doucouré on. Great, I believe it was after the goal. We brought Jean-Philippe Gbamin on. We brought, who else did we bring on just before? We brought Andros Townsend on just before the extra time. Again, a player that probably we wouldn't have liked to have used ultimately, because he's only just returning from injury. Granted, he come on and scored the winner, which was a worldie, which was great. If you're enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. It only takes a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. But yeah, like as I said, we brought on a couple of substitutes to try and change the game, packed the midfield out, went from having virtually no one in midfield to Gabaman, Decore, Alan. We completely packed the midfield out, and again searched for that winner, but it was too late. It was too late. At this point, Damari Gray was really struggling. Anthony Gordon had come off at this point, which I think was the wrong substitution again by the manager. I don't know how many times I have to criticise the manager for making bad substitutions, but again, it shouldn't have been Anthony Gordon at that point. Damari Gray, for as well as he played and for as good as he was getting kicked up and down the pitch consistently, time and time again in that second half. I'd have brought Damari Gray off before I brought Anthony Gordon off. But anyway, Anthony Gordon comes off, Damari Gray stays on. Again, Damari Gray is seemingly, I don't know whether he was hurt or just absolutely knackered, so wasn't really creating as much. Solomon Rondon was still walking around, effectively doing fuck all. I'm sitting there screaming for Lewis Dobbin to be given a chance, doesn't get given an opportunity. Ultimately Hull end up seeing it out, and it was a pretty dire last 5 or 10 minutes, and the final whistle goes, and we're going to extra time, and you're sort of scratching your head thinking, well, what now? How do we win this game? How do we avoid going to penalty shootouts? But more importantly, how have we taken injury-ridden Hull side into extra time in an FA Cup tie? And it's really difficult, this one, because it feels like a really negative video, a really negative live stream. Ultimately, we've still won the game, which is a very positive thing. And, at the end of the day, with an FA Cup tie and with any cup tie, doesn't really matter how you play. As again, I was watching TalkSport this morning. I think Simon Jordan said if Everton go on and win the FA Cup, they're not going to sit and think about, remember that difficult game against Hull in the third round where they took us to extra time. We're not going to care about that. So as long as we win, that's all that matters. But I can't sit here, and again, I refuse to sit here and say, that's it, we've won the game, so everything's all right now. No problems, everything's sorted, we're all right. Because I distinctly remember Rafa Benitez saying a week before Arsenal, we only need this one win. We only need one win, and then things will get better. We got that one win against Arsenal, and nothing improved. I distinctly remember Rafa Benitez saying over the last couple of weeks, we'll have a much better second half of the season. Well, we've got a win now. We've got that win under our belt. We've beaten Hull. We've got Brentford at home, which is a decent draw. Could have been worse. Could have been better. Don't get me wrong. It could have been worse in a few weeks' time. Let's go and have that better second half of the season now. But anyway, it gets to full time. As I said before, referee was absolutely abysmal. Kevin Friend embarrassed himself on Saturday. Absolutely embarrassed himself. And I don't care. I don't care about, watch what you say, Cam, this, that, and the other. I'm not interested. 2 absolute blatant penalties. The first one is probably the most blatant penalty you'll see all season. Not given, again, because there is no VAR in Championship grounds, which is nonsense. And the second one, again, is another a blatant penalty for me. You can see his arm go in the air, and Kevin Friend is looking at it. He is staring right in the face of it. The player's arm flies in the air, and he blocks it. The first one, he fucking saves it for a start. The first one, if it was Asmir Begovic, I'd be standing up applauding. He saves it. The second one, again, his arm comes up, and yes, you might say, he didn't mean it. Doesn't matter. That, when you're blocking a shot, is an unnatural position for your arm to be in at the end of the day. And he didn't give either, as I said. Countless decisions. There was another one towards the end of the game where Solomon Rondon was, battling with the defender and looking to get one-on-one with the keeper, and the defender brought him down, and he gave a free kick the other way. Nonsense decision-making by Kevin Friend. He was awful. He was absolutely abysmal on Saturday. He wasn't the reason as to why we couldn't kill that game off. Don't get me wrong, I'm not excusing it. I'm not sitting here saying it was all Kevin Friend's fault. It wasn't. Everton weren't good enough. At the end of the day, we simply weren't good enough. But Kevin Friend was poor. Whether you like it or not, whether you want to admit it or not, Kevin Friend was abysmal the other day. Absolutely abysmal. And I'm sick of these referees being so bad. And I'm sick of, commentators and journalists coming out and saying, he's had a good game today. You've literally just said in the sentence before, if VAR was here, Everton would have had 2 penalties. So how can you then sit here and say the referees had a good game? It's like me going into work and work saying, if we had somebody else in your position, we'd have achieved a lot more by now. But you still had a decent time. Well, no, obviously I haven't, have I? Because, you've literally admitting that I'm making mistakes that somebody else wouldn't make. It's nonsense. It's absolutely nonsense. But anyway, as I said, if you are enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. That would mean an absolute massive amount to me. If you could share the scene, that would be brilliant as well. But anyway, we get to full time. The manager makes a couple of substitutions in extra time. I know a couple of them were at half time of extra time. Lewis Dobbin finally gets some time to come on. He finally gets some time to, show his quality, albeit it was only 15 minutes at the end of extra time when the game was done and dusted. And Cenk Tosun comes on, because why would you not bring Cenk Tosun on? Doesn't want to leave the club because he's happy getting paid the money he's getting paid. I don't know why he's even on the bench, but there you go. And yeah, as I said, we get into extra time, first half of extra time, and I was absolutely, don't know whether anybody else was, but I was absolutely praying and hoping that we'd have scored a win in an extra time. I couldn't have dealt with a penalty shootout. I simply couldn't have dealt with a penalty shootout. It just would have absolutely, it'd have killed me off. I can't deal with a penalty shootout at the best of times, to be perfectly honest with you. I just hate them. I absolutely hate them, especially given the last penalty we watched in an Everton shirt was Dominic Calvert-Lewin lash it over the bar last weekend against Brighton. So it was important for me to go out and get that third goal, and we did. We did it in emphatic fashion. Andros Townsend, really, really, really nice. Really, really nice bit of play. Picks the ball up in a really, really good area, and let's fly with his right foot. Typical Andros Townsend goal, really. If you were to think in your mind of an Andros Townsend finish, it would be that, blasted into the back of the net emphatically, and all of a sudden, should the goalkeeper do better? Yes, but I don't give a shit. All of a sudden Everton a 3-2 up, extra time, and I think at that point you could sort of tell it was beyond Hull then. Their lack of fitness, the fact that the players had played 120 minutes, was starting to get to them. But again, a performance that Hull could have been proud of, and a performance that, as an Evertonian, you're sort of sitting there still feeling a little bit embarrassed about. Almost strangely enough, and we've won the game ultimately, and we're in the half of the next round, and we've progressed, and that's all that matters. But for a team so riddled with injuries and in such poor form to take us to 120 minutes worth of extra time, when we had so much possession, we had so many opportunities to kill the game off, it just isn't a massive positive for me. It isn't. Let's be honest, we've won the game, which is great, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. But it's not a performance I can sit in and go, we were amazing. Then there's that something to clinch onto. Rafa Benitez effectively hasn't done himself any favours. He hasn't. He could have done himself a massive favour by bringing on Lewis Dobbin for Solomon Rondon with half an hour of normal time to go and giving the crowd something to go, do you know what? We're actively trying to go out and win this game here. But he didn't. He persisted with Solomon Rondon. He persisted with, leaving him on when he clearly wasn't really achieving much or doing much. And that was always going to cause problems for the crowd. But ultimately, listen, as I said, Andros comes on, scored the winning goal. Really, really good finish. Really, really nice, well-taken goal. We get to the second half of extra time. Lewis Dobbin comes on, does a bit of running round, causes a few problems, as he would have done with half an hour to go and giving us a better chance of winning the game. But anyway, Tosun comes on and has one shot and doesn't score. Yeah, that's about it. And we see the game out and we win it. As I said, not a comfortable watch by any stretch of the imagination. Not a good performance by any stretch of the imagination, but a win. And we're in the half of the next round, which is, I suppose, all of that you could ask for, really. Without Dominic Calvert-Lewin, without Richarlison, without Yerry Mina, defensively, as I said, we're abysmal. We're an absolute joke defensively. We are so much in need of a centre half this January. It's beyond even comprehension. But players shone through. Premier League quality shone through in the end. The likes of Damari Gray, the likes of Anthony Gordon really, really showed their ability, really, really showed their quality. Great to see Andros Townsend as well when he come on, showed his quality. Great to see Andre Gomez back on the score sheet as well. Hopefully that will give him a massive boost of confidence. And ultimately we got the win. Not a performance I'll sit here and talk about for years to come with great, with great excitement. But as a lot of people have said, if we go on and win the FA Cup, then we won't care about the third round performance against Hull. We'll be talking about how it was just important that we got into the next round. And I suppose, given the fact that we've only won before Saturday one game in the last 12, given the fact that we hadn't won a game we've only won one game, since September, and that was against an Arsenal team that should have probably done better on the day. You take that. You take it all day long. Not ideal, not a great performance, not something we can sit here and scream and shout about, but I'll take it all day long, because that game could have gone in a very, very different way, very, very different manner. We could have lost the game. The atmosphere and feeling around the club would have been so toxic over the next couple of days. We'd be sitting here now talking about being out of the FA Cup as well as the Carabao Cup, and it just wouldn't have felt very nice. So the onus now is on this Everton team and Rafa Benitez to go out and do what the manager and the owner and a lot of the players have been banging on about for the last couple of months, is that we'll have a better second half of the season, and it only really takes one win, and we can bounce on from that. Go and show us it then. We've won a game now. Yes, it wasn't in great fashion. Yes, it was against the Championship side. Yes, it took us 120 minutes to do that, but we've won the game now. Take that mentality. Again, maybe this is, a problem with the game on Tuesday against Leicester being postponed. We could have been talking about going into that Leicester game with that fresh sort of momentum, with that fresh confidence, but we're not now. We've got to take it into Saturday against Norwich, and I can't express to you how important that game of football is. An absolute must-win in every sense of the imagination. But hopefully, as I said, we won the game. Hopefully that confidence can give us, we can get enough confidence from that to go on and win on Saturday. If you are enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. It does only take a second, and if you're new, don't forget to subscribe. Where were we in the live comments then? I can't remember where we were. How Everton emerged from bleak decade to be champions again, says Eugene. Random. Jem says, I noticed Keane ran straight into the 6-yard box area to play every Hull player onside. If he'd kept still, chances are we would have given an offside position. Michael Keane at defending balls into the box is abysmal. Absolutely abysmal. Jeff says, given time, Benitez will replace more shy players and will improve. Patience required. Interesting. Remy says, as annoying as is identical to the Brighton early goal, is the more annoying thing is when we go 2-1 up and then flop about like it's all good. Yeah. Spot on. Meg vs. Jake says, last season was by far our best season in years. At times, but the end of it was awful. We were awful at home. We were awful for the last 6 months of the season. January onwards, the end of it was really bad. Jem says, I hope so, Jeff. Keane needs to F off his shite. Meg vs. Jake says, hopefully Patson starts against Norwich. Good practice for the young lad. Yeah. Hopefully, or certainly, hopefully, we see him in some capacity. Jeff says, really, Sam finished in 8th. Tom says, yes, Cam, loving the streams and all the work you're putting in. Cheers, my mate. Ian says, we played against 12 men. That friend is a cheat. He certainly is. Jeff says, Benitez knows our defenders suck and wants to get better ones, but he's being financially hamstrung. Fair enough. Damien says, can't give the young lad any shit on his debut, plus he hasn't played in 15 weeks, getting thrown in a tough FA Cup tie, couple of mistakes, he'll learn. I actually thought Mykolenko done well. I thought he held himself well. Thought he, the more and more that the game went on, he grew into it a lot more. Defensively, I thought he was sound. I thought for his debut, I thought he done really, really well. I'm surprised to see a lot of people judging him already as if he was abysmal. Even if he was abysmal, I'd be saying, well, you know what, it was his debut, first game, give him a chance. But he wasn't. He was absolutely sound. James says, hi Cam, hope you're well, mate. Barkley should come back. What you think? Not a chance, mate. I wouldn't have him back if you paid me to. He's not done anything to warrant coming back, and he's always injury prone. So I'd rather test the water for Conor Gallagher than go anywhere near Ross Barkley. But that's just my opinion. Whammy says, Dobbin is raw. He is away and touches the ball right into the defender. Probably needs loaning out. Well, just a bit more experience. A bit more game time. Whether that's at Everton or elsewhere, I think that's just what he needs. And Jeff says, here talk about demons at 160k. That's insane. And Villa might think again and look elsewhere. Well, they seem pretty sound on, from what reports are saying, they seem pretty sound on agreeing to it. So we'll wait and see, won't we? We'll wait and see about that one. But yeah, Jem says, I thought Mykolenko was good too. Yeah, I thought he had a decent game. I didn't think there was a problem with him, to be honest with you. Anyway, look, we are going to finish it up there. Then if you have enjoyed this one, please do leave a like. As I said, not the greatest performance. Certainly not the best game of football you will ever watch. Hopefully not the best game of football you'll watch this season either. But we're in the hat for the next round. We do play Brentford in the 4th round of the FA Cup. That game will be played on the first weekend of February at Goodison Park. So again, not an awful draw. Could have been worse, could have been better. Yeah, performance-wise, not a lot to take from this one, but we won the game, and hopefully that win and winning the game of football will be enough to get a little bit of confidence and take it forward and get some wins under our belt in the league, because that's really what we need now. We need to start winning games of football in the league, don't we? Let's be honest. Jem says, he wasn't easy to get past and stuck his foot in. Not asked about the free kicks. Can't stand players letting opposition get past them. Yeah, and Wimmy says he did okay defensively. Mikalenko didn't really see much of his attacking potential. Was always going to be scrutinised because of Dean. We didn't, but we'll see more of that, I think, as the weeks go on. I'm not really big on looking and thinking we didn't see enough of him going forward. We did see one side of him going forward. He put a good ball in, and I think Rondon just took 3 years to control it. But we'll see more of that. Eugene says, see you about the toffees. Cheers, mate. Jem says, see you, Cam. Cheers, Jem. Jeff says, Benitez signings were our best apart from Rondon. Gordon has improved and credit Benitez. It's the dross we've already had letting us down. Fair point. Fair point, mate. Fair point. Well, we are going to do another live stream probably tomorrow talking about Luca Dean, because I've got boxing in about an hour or so, I don't think I'll be able to fit it in. We're going to talk about the Aston Villa rumours. Who knows, by tomorrow we might even have something else to talk about in regards to the Luca Dean situation. We'll wait and see. But in terms of this one, that is going to do it. If you have enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. Once again, a massive thank you to everybody for getting involved in the live comments. Really do appreciate it. If you're watching the YouTube video, get your thoughts down below and we'll get involved with as many of them as possible. As I said, not the greatest performance, but we're in the hat for the next round, and ultimately that's all that matters. Massive thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this one, please leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new as well, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues. Cheers for watching. See you after.